Welcome to today's episode. This session is designed for advanced English learners, and we're going to focus on using English in a natural and fluent way. If you're at a C1 or C2 level, your goal is probably to express yourself clearly, confidently, and with a deep understanding of the language. In this episode, we'll explore how to share your thoughts on complex topics, connect your ideas smoothly, and use the right tone for different situations. Let's dive in. First, let's talk about explaining complex ideas. At this level, it's important to express yourself with more detail and precision. For example, if someone asks you about a memorable experience, instead of saying, "It was a good experience," you can say, "That experience taught me valuable lessons and helped me grow as a person." This shows not only what happened, but also why it was important to you. Adding detail like this makes your English more engaging and thoughtful. Next, let's focus on linking your ideas. When you talk about more advanced topics, it's useful to connect your sentences smoothly. Words and phrases like however, in addition, for example, and as a result are great tools for this. Imagine you're explaining why you enjoyed a trip. "I loved the city because it was full of history. For example, I visited an old castle that was over 500 years old. In addition, the people were very welcoming." Using these kinds of connectors makes your thoughts flow naturally and helps the listener follow your ideas. Now, let's talk about tone. At this level, you should be able to change how you speak depending on the situation. For instance, if you're talking to a friend about your weekend, you might say, "I had such a great time. We went hiking and the views were amazing." But if you are speaking in a professional setting, you could say, "I had a very enjoyable weekend. I went hiking and appreciated the stunning views." Both examples are correct, but the tone changes to match the situation. Knowing how to adjust your tone helps you sound appropriate and confident. Let's expand on using tone and linking ideas in more detail. Imagine you're in a conversation with someone at a formal event, like a seminar or business meeting. In these situations, it's important to show professionalism and clarity in your speech. Instead of casually saying, "Oh, I really liked your presentation. It was nice," you could say, "I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. It was not only informative, but also very engaging, especially the examples you provided." Notice how the second version sounds more formal and respectful, which is perfect for professional settings. Paying attention to your tone in these environments shows that you're mindful of how you come across. Now, let's consider informal conversations, like chatting with friends or family. Here, your tone can be more relaxed and expressive. For example, if someone asks about your weekend, you might say, "It was so much fun. We went hiking and the weather was perfect, sunny but not too hot." Adding enthusiasm to your tone and using words like "so much fun" helps you connect with people emotionally. This difference in tone, whether formal or informal, is a skill that shows you're comfortable adapting to any situation. Moving on, let's discuss how to develop longer, more detailed responses in English. When you're speaking about a topic, try to go beyond the basics by adding examples, reasons, and your personal thoughts. For instance, if someone asks about your favorite book, instead of just saying, "I like it because it's interesting," you can say, "My favorite book is one that I read a few years ago. It's called To Kill a Mockingbird, and I found it fascinating because it explores themes of justice, morality, and compassion. The characters felt so real to me, and I think the story is still very relevant today." Adding details like this helps your listener understand your perspective and makes your speech more engaging. Another way to sound fluent is to use advanced vocabulary and idiomatic expressions, but do so naturally. For example, instead of saying, "The project was difficult," you could say, "The project was a real challenge, but it was rewarding to see it come together in the end." Similarly, instead of saying, "I worked hard," you might say, "I gave it my all and put in a lot of effort." These phrases sound more expressive and convey your ideas with greater impact. However, it's important not to overuse idioms or complex words, as this can make your speech sound unnatural. The key is balance. Use these expressions when they fit the context. Let's also talk about expressing opinions. When sharing your thoughts, especially on serious topics, it's useful to structure your response. Start by stating your main idea, Then explain why you think that way. And finally, provide an example to support your opinion. For instance, if someone asks, "What's your opinion on working from home?" you could respond with, "I believe working from home has both advantages and challenges. On one hand, it allows people to save time on commuting and have more flexibility. For example, parents can spend more time with their children. On the other hand, it can make it harder to separate work and personal life. Overall, I think it depends on the individual and their work style. This structure makes your opinion clear and easy to follow." To improve fluency further, practice summarizing ideas. Summarizing helps you condense information into a few key points, which is a valuable skill in both casual and professional settings. For example, after watching a movie, instead of just saying "it was good," you could summarize by saying, "The movie was about a young artist trying to find her place in the world. The story was heartfelt, and the acting was incredible, especially in the emotional scenes." This approach not only improves your vocabulary, but also helps you organize your thoughts. Finally, don't forget the importance of practicing listening and speaking together. Listening to native speakers or advanced English speakers can help you pick up natural phrasing, pronunciation, and rhythm. When you hear a phrase you like, try to repeat it and use it in your own sentences. For example, if you hear someone say, "That was a turning point for me," practice using it in your own context. Like, "Graduating from university was a turning point for me because it marked the beginning of my career." This method helps you internalize advanced expressions and use them confidently in your conversations. Let's take this to a deeper level by using a story and role-play example to illustrate how fluency and confidence can be developed in English. Imagine this scenario. You've just moved to a new city for a job, and you're at a networking event. You don't know anyone there, and the thought of striking up a conversation feels overwhelming. But you remind yourself that small talk is a powerful way to connect with people and improve your English fluency. Let's walk through how this might play out. You spot someone standing near the refreshment table, looking approachable. Instead of hesitating, you take a deep breath and decide to initiate a conversation. You start with a simple and friendly question. "Hi, how are you enjoying the event so far?" The person responds positively, saying, "It's been great. The speaker earlier was really inspiring. What about you?" Now, here's your chance to expand the conversation. Instead of giving a short reply, you could say, "I agree. The speaker had some excellent points about leadership. I especially liked the part where they talked about building trust within a team. It reminded me of a project I worked on last year where collaboration was key. Have you worked on similar projects?" Notice how this response does three things. It shares your perspective, adds a personal story, and invites the other person to share theirs. This is a great way to keep the conversation flowing. To make this even more engaging, let's incorporate a bit of role play. Imagine the person you're speaking with shares their experience. "Yes, actually, I worked on a similar project last year. We were launching a new product, and teamwork was essential. But it wasn't easy at first. There were some disagreements on the design." In this moment, you can show active listening, which is a key part of fluency. You might respond with something like, "That sounds challenging. How did your team work through the disagreements?" Asking thoughtful follow-up questions not only shows interest, but also keeps the dialogue going. This is how you transition from basic exchanges to meaningful conversations. Now, let's weave in a story to highlight how fluency grows with practice. Imagine a woman named Sarah, who recently moved to London for her studies. When she arrived, she felt shy about speaking English, especially in social settings. She would often listen to conversations without participating, fearing she might make mistakes. One day, her professor invited the class to a casual coffee meetup. Sarah decided to push herself out of her comfort zone. During the meetup, she overheard a group discussing their favorite travel destinations. Gathering her courage, she joined the conversation by saying, "I love traveling too. Last year I visited Rome, and the history there is incredible. Have any of you been to Italy?" To her surprise, the group welcomed her warmly and shared their own travel stories. One person said, "I've always wanted to visit Rome. What was your favorite part?" Sarah replied, "The Colosseum was amazing, but what I enjoyed most was exploring the local cafes. The food and atmosphere were unforgettable. This experience boosted Sarah's confidence. She realized that people were more interested in connecting than judging her grammar or accent. Over time, she continued practicing in similar settings, and her fluency improved dramatically. What can we learn from Sarah's story? First, it's okay to feel nervous. Most people do when they're learning something new. Second, taking small steps, like joining a conversation or sharing a personal experience, can lead to big improvements. Lastly, people are generally kind and understanding, especially when they see you're making an effort to communicate. Let's return to the idea of role-playing. Imagine you're at a family dinner where everyone is speaking English. Someone asks you, "What's the most exciting thing you've done recently?" Instead of giving a short answer, you could say, "Last weekend, I went to a music festival. It was amazing." The energy of the crowd, the live performances, and even the food trucks made it such a memorable experience. Have you ever been to a music festival? By adding details and asking a question, you not only share your story, but also create an opportunity for others to join the conversation. This back-and-forth exchange is the essence of natural communication. Another example could be in a workplace setting. Imagine your boss asks, "How's the project coming along?" Instead of a simple, "It's going well," you could say, "The project is progressing smoothly. We've finished the initial research, and now we're focusing on drafting the report. I've also scheduled a meeting with the team to discuss our findings. Would you like me to include any specific points in the presentation?" This response shows initiative and provides clear information, which is particularly important in professional settings. To practice these skills, try creating your own role-play scenarios. Think about common situations you might encounter, like ordering food at a restaurant, asking for directions, or discussing your weekend plans with a friend. Write down a few sentences for each situation and practice saying them aloud. If you can, record yourself and listen to the playback. This will help you identify areas where you can improve your pronunciation or clarity. Finally, let's talk about how storytelling can make your English more engaging. People love stories because they're relatable and memorable. Even simple stories, like describing how you spent your weekend or a funny moment at work, can make your conversations more interesting. For example, instead of saying, "I went shopping," you could say, "I went shopping for a new jacket last Saturday. I found one I really liked, but when I got to the checkout, I realized I'd left my wallet at home. It was so embarrassing, but the cashier was very kind and held the jacket for me until I came back." Adding details like this not only improves your fluency, but also makes you more enjoyable to talk to. By practicing storytelling, role-playing, and engaging in real-life conversations, you'll gradually build your confidence and fluency. Don't be afraid to experiment with new vocabulary and expressions. Every conversation is an opportunity to learn and grow. Remember, the key to fluency isn't perfection, it's persistence and a willingness to connect with others. Let's continue to expand on this and dive even deeper into the process of building confidence in speaking English. Imagine that you're at a cafe with a friend, and you both are discussing the latest movie you watched. Instead of simply saying, "I liked it," you can practice giving more detailed responses that show your fluency. For instance, you might say, "I really enjoyed the movie, especially the way the director used light and shadow to create suspense. The storyline was so unexpected. I didn't think the main character would turn out to be the villain." By offering more detail and sharing your opinions, you make the conversation more interesting and engaging. Let's role-play a situation in which you're trying to discuss a movie with a group of friends. Picture yourself in a group setting, at a party or gathering where everyone is talking about their favorite films. One person says, "I think superhero movies are overrated." This is your opportunity to jump in and give a more thoughtful reply. "I can see why you'd think that, but I enjoy superhero films for their creativity. They often show characters who face huge challenges, and I like seeing how they grow. For example, in the latest movie I watched, the hero wasn't just saving the world, but also learning to deal with personal loss. It added depth to the story." Now, instead of just agreeing or disagreeing, you're adding to the conversation in a way that makes you sound more fluent and thoughtful. Storytelling is another great way to practice your English skills. Let's think about a scenario where you're telling a story to your friend about your trip to the countryside. You could say, "Last weekend, I went to the countryside with some friends. We rented a small house in the hills, and the view from the window was breathtaking. The best part was when we took a hike to the top of a mountain. The air was so fresh, and we could see for miles. We even spotted some deer in the distance. It was the perfect escape from the city noise. Notice how this description doesn't just give basic information. It provides details that make the story more vivid and engaging. Using these kinds of details is an excellent way to practice speaking English naturally and with fluency. Let's switch gears for a moment and think about how you could use storytelling in a professional situation. Imagine you're at a work meeting and your manager asks for updates on a project. Instead of just saying, "It's going well," you could say, "The project is going well. We've just finished collecting the data, and now we're moving into the analysis phase." I think the results will be interesting because we've noticed some patterns that we weren't expecting. For example, one of the findings challenges the assumptions we made at the start. I'm really looking forward to discussing this with the team tomorrow. This response not only shows that you're confident in your work, but it also makes you seem more knowledgeable and engaged with the project. One of the biggest hurdles many English learners face is the fear of making mistakes. Let's imagine a scenario where you're at a work meeting and you want to say something, but you're worried it might not sound perfect. Here's where you can apply what we've discussed so far. Instead of being afraid to speak, take the opportunity to share your thoughts, even if they aren't perfectly formed. For example, if your boss asks for suggestions about a project, you might say, "I think we could improve the marketing strategy by focusing more on social media. I'm not sure about all the details yet, but I believe it could help us reach a younger audience." Even though you're not 100% confident, you're still offering valuable input, and this is a key part of developing fluency. The more you practice this kind of speaking, the easier it becomes. To make this a bit more practical, let's role-play a situation where you need to ask for help at the airport. Let's say you're trying to find your way to the departure gate. Instead of just saying, "Excuse me, where is the gate?" you can take the opportunity to practice longer, more detailed sentences. "Excuse me, I'm a little lost. Could you help me find my way to Gate 12? I'm flying to New York, and I don't want to miss my flight." By adding a little extra context, you make the conversation flow more naturally. You're not only asking for help, but also showing your awareness of the situation, which makes the exchange feel more personal and less robotic. Now, imagine you're on the phone with customer service, trying to sort out an issue with your order. Instead of simply saying, "I didn't get my order," try to explain the situation in a more detailed way. "Hi, I placed an order online last week, but I've just checked, and it seems like my package hasn't arrived yet. I was expecting it to be here by today, but I haven't received any updates. Could you help me track it down?" By adding this extra detail, you're making your request clearer and more polite, which can lead to a better outcome. Let's think about a social situation now. You're at a family gathering, and someone asks you, "How was your day?" Instead of just saying "good" or "fine," try to expand your answer. "It was actually a really nice day. I spent most of the afternoon at the park, enjoying the sunshine. I even had a chance to read a book outside. It felt great to take a break and relax." This answer not only tells the other person what you did, but also paints a picture of your day. It's more engaging and shows your ability to speak English with depth and personality. Another great way to practice fluency is by participating in group activities. Imagine you're at a book club meeting and the group is discussing a recent book. Instead of simply agreeing with everyone, you could share a more detailed opinion. "I really enjoyed the book, but I felt the ending was a bit rushed. I think it would have been more satisfying if the author had spent more time on the final chapters, especially the characters' motivations. What do you think?" By engaging in this way, you're demonstrating that you've really thought about the book and are able to communicate your thoughts clearly in English. All of these examples show how you can use role-playing and storytelling to make your English conversations feel more natural and fluent. Remember, the key to becoming fluent isn't about perfect grammar or pronunciation. It's about feeling confident enough to engage in conversations, share your ideas, and keep the discussion flowing. The more you practice these scenarios, the more comfortable you will become in real-life situations. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're a natural part of the learning process and help you improve in the long run. With time and practice, your fluency will continue to grow. All right, let's continue with more examples to help you build confidence and fluency in English. Remember, the key to becoming fluent is not just speaking, but also feeling comfortable in various situations where English is used. Imagine you are in a meeting at work and your manager asks you about the progress of a project. Instead of just saying, "It's going well," try to expand on your response to sound more confident and clear. You could say, "The project is progressing well. We've completed the research phase, and now we're moving into the planning stage. The team has already outlined some key strategies, and we're expecting to present our initial findings next week. There are a few areas where we could use more data, but I think we'll be ready to make strong recommendations soon." This detailed answer shows that you are in control of the situation and are thinking critically about the project. It also makes you sound more fluent because you're able to describe the project's progress in clear, professional language. Let's think of another situation, this time at a social gathering. You're at a friend's house, and people are talking about their weekend plans. Instead of just saying, "I don't have any plans," you could give a more detailed answer. "I'm actually planning to spend the weekend exploring a new part of the city. There's this beautiful park I've been meaning to visit, and I've heard there's a great art exhibit there. I'm also hoping to catch up with some friends over dinner." It's always nice to slow down and enjoy the weekend after a busy week. Now, you've shared not just what you'll be doing, but also your feelings about the weekend plans, which makes the conversation feel more natural and personal. Here's a great example of how to use storytelling in a professional context. Let's say you're in an interview, and the interviewer asks you about a time when you solved a difficult problem at work. Instead of simply answering, "I solved a problem with a project," you could respond with a more detailed story. "In my previous job, we faced a major challenge when a client suddenly changed the project requirements just a week before the deadline. At first, the team was stressed out because we didn't have enough time to make all the changes. But I suggested that we break down the new requirements into smaller tasks and prioritize them. I also recommended we work in smaller groups to make the process more efficient. In the end, we were able to meet the deadline, and the client was very happy with the result. It was a stressful experience, but it taught me a lot about time management and teamwork." By telling a story like this, you're not only showing your problem-solving skills, but you're also demonstrating your ability to communicate complex ideas clearly in English. Now, imagine you're telling a story to a friend about an exciting trip you took. Instead of just saying, "I went to the beach," try to add more details to make the story more interesting. You might say, "Last summer, I went on a trip to the coast with some friends. The weather was perfect, sunny and warm, but not too hot. We spent the day at a beautiful beach with golden sand and clear blue water. We even tried surfing for the first time. I wasn't very good at it, but it was so much fun. Afterward, we walked along the pier and had some fresh seafood. It was such a relaxing day, and I can't wait to go back next summer." This response not only tells your friend about your trip, but it also paints a picture that allows them to experience it with you. It's a great way to improve fluency because you're giving a detailed, vivid response that sounds natural. In your daily conversations, you can also practice using descriptive language to explain things around you. Let's say you're at a restaurant and the waiter asks how you like your food. Instead of just saying, "It's good," you could give a more detailed response. "The dish is amazing. The flavors are well balanced. The chicken is tender and the spices are just right. I especially love the sauce. It has a rich, creamy texture with a hint of garlic that gives it a unique taste. I'm really enjoying it." By adding more details, you're not only giving feedback, but also showing your ability to express your thoughts in a more sophisticated way. Here's another example of how to use English fluently in a social situation. Imagine you're at a party, and someone asks you what kind of music you like. Instead of simply saying, "I like pop music," you could say, "I'm really into pop music, especially the kind with upbeat rhythms and catchy lyrics. But I also enjoy listening to other genres like indie rock and electronic music. It really depends on my mood. Sometimes I like to listen to something more relaxed, like acoustic songs, but other times I'm in the mood for something energetic and fast-paced." This response not only tells the other person what you like, but also provides insight into your tastes and how they change, which makes the conversation feel more genuine and engaging. Now, let's consider a situation where you're discussing a book you've read with someone. Instead of simply saying, "It was good," you could say, "I recently finished reading a novel called The Great Adventure. It's about a young woman who sets out on a journey to find her long-lost brother. What I loved most about the book was the way the author created such vivid characters. The main character was really relatable because she faced so many challenges and had to make difficult choices. There were moments in the story when I felt like I was right there with her, experiencing everything she went through. I definitely recommend it if you enjoy stories with strong characters and a lot of emotional depth. By adding this level of detail, you're able to share your opinion in a more thoughtful and engaging way. In professional situations, especially during meetings or presentations, it's important to expand your answers. For instance, if your boss asks you about the success of a recent campaign, instead of simply saying, "It was successful," you could say, "The campaign exceeded our expectations. We reached our target audience through a mix of social media platforms and traditional marketing methods. We saw a 20% increase in website traffic, and the sales team reported that they received a higher number of inquiries than usual. Overall, the feedback from our customers has been very positive, and we plan to build on this success in the next quarter by incorporating more customer testimonials and user-generated content." This detailed response not only shows your involvement in the project, but also demonstrates your ability to communicate the results effectively. Let's practice how to respond to a question at a social gathering. Someone might ask you, "What did you do this weekend?" Instead of just saying, "I stayed home," you could say, "I had a quiet weekend. On Saturday, I spent some time catching up on my favorite TV show. I'm watching a series about a detective who solves mysteries in a small town. It's really suspenseful, and I can't wait to see what happens next. On Sunday, I went for a walk in the park and met up with a friend for coffee. We talked about everything: our jobs, family, and even plans for the summer. It was a nice way to unwind before the busy week ahead." This response not only answers the question, but also invites further conversation, giving the other person more to ask about. These are all excellent examples of how you can build your fluency and confidence in English. Whether you're at work, socializing with friends, or telling a story, the key is to practice using more detailed responses. The more you practice, the more naturally English will come to you, and you'll be able to engage in conversations with ease and confidence. Let's continue practicing and exploring how you can express yourself in different situations using English. The more you practice, the more comfortable and fluent you'll become in conversations. Let's imagine you're meeting someone new and want to make a great first impression. A simple question like, "Where are you from?" can lead to a more interesting conversation if you answer in detail. Instead of just saying, "I'm from London," you could say, "I'm from London, which is the capital of the United Kingdom. It's a huge city with a rich history and so many things to do. There are famous landmarks like Big Ben, Buckingham Palace, and the London Eye. The city is known for its mix of modern and historic buildings. I love how diverse London is. People from all over the world live there, so you get to experience so many different cultures and foods. I'm really proud to be from such a vibrant city." By adding details like this, you give the other person a better understanding of where you're from, and it opens up the conversation for them to ask more about your hometown, your experiences, or even travel tips. Imagine now that you're talking to someone about your hobbies. If they ask, "What do you like to do in your free time?" you could say, "In my free time, I really enjoy playing the guitar. I've been playing for a few years, and it's something I love doing to relax. I play a variety of music, but lately, I've been focusing on learning some classic rock songs. I find it so satisfying when I finally master a difficult song. I also like hiking. On weekends, I often go hiking with my friends to explore new trails in the mountains near where I live. It's a great way to enjoy nature and get some exercise at the same time." This answer tells the other person not only what your hobbies are, but also why you enjoy them and what you get out of them. This kind of response can make the conversation more engaging and shows your enthusiasm for your interests. Now, let's practice a situation where you need to explain your job or studies. If someone asks you, "What do you do for a living?" you could say, "I work as a graphic designer. I create visual designs for websites, advertising campaigns, and digital products. It's a really creative job, and I enjoy finding solutions to design problems. Every project is different, so I'm always learning new things. For example, right now, I'm working on designing a website for a small business. It's challenging because the client has a specific vision, but it's also exciting to bring their ideas to life. I love being able to make something that not only looks good, but also helps people connect with the brand. This detailed response not only explains what you do, but also gives insight into why you enjoy your job and what challenges you face, making the conversation feel more personal and meaningful. Imagine another scenario. You're talking to a friend about your favorite book or movie. Instead of just saying, "My favorite book is Harry Potter," you could say, "One of my favorite books is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. I first read it when I was younger, and I've read it several times since. It's about a boy named Harry who discovers he's a wizard and goes on many adventures at a magical school. What I love about the book is the way the author, J.K. Rowling, creates such an imaginative world. There are so many interesting characters, and the story is full of twists and surprises. It's a great mix of magic, mystery, and friendship, and it never gets old, no matter how many times I read it." By explaining why this book is your favorite, you add depth to your answer, which could lead to a more interesting conversation. Your friend might then ask about your favorite characters or what other books you recommend. Let's move on to a situation where you're giving feedback about something. Let's say you've just watched a movie and someone asks you, "Did you enjoy the movie?" Instead of just saying, "Yes, it was good," you could say, "I really enjoyed the movie. It was a great mix of action and drama. The plot kept me on the edge of my seat, and the actors gave amazing performances. One thing I really liked was the way the director used flashbacks to show different perspectives of the story. It made the plot more interesting and added emotional depth. The only downside was that the ending felt a bit rushed, but overall, it was a fantastic film." This answer gives more specific feedback and helps the person you're speaking with understand your opinion better. By explaining the reasons behind your feelings, you're showing your ability to think critically and express your thoughts clearly. Now, let's practice another conversation at work. You're in a meeting, and your manager asks you for an update on a task. Instead of saying, "I'm almost done," you could say, "The task is nearly complete. I've finished most of the research, and I've started putting everything together into the final presentation. I'm just waiting for the latest data from the marketing team before I can finish the report. Once I have that, I'll be able to finalize everything and send it to you by the end of the day. I'm confident that the final product will be ready on time, and I've made sure to double-check all the details to avoid any mistakes." This detailed response shows your manager that you're organized and proactive, and it provides enough information to give them a clear picture of where things stand. It also demonstrates your ability to communicate well in a professional setting, which is a key skill in any job. Let's take this further with a situation where you're planning a trip with friends. If someone asks, "What are you doing for the holiday?" you could say, "For the holiday, I'm planning to go on a short trip with a few friends to the beach. We're going to a place we've visited before, so we know it's beautiful. We'll spend a few days relaxing by the ocean, trying new seafood restaurants, and maybe doing some water sports. It's going to be a great opportunity to unwind and recharge. We're also thinking of doing a day trip to a nearby town to explore some local markets and historical sites." This response not only tells your friends about your plans, but it also shares some details about the places you'll visit and the activities you'll do. This makes the conversation more engaging and can lead to further questions or suggestions from your friends. If you were talking about your goals for the future, you could say, "In the next few years, I plan to focus more on my career development. I'm hoping to take on more leadership responsibilities at work, and I'm also considering going back to school for an advanced degree in marketing. In addition, I want to travel more to learn about different cultures and broaden my perspective. I've always wanted to visit Japan and explore the unique blend of modern technology and traditional culture there. It's exciting to think about the future and the opportunities that are out there." This answer not only discusses your career goals, but also shares your personal interests and long-term plans. It shows you're forward-thinking and motivated, which could inspire others to talk about their own goals. Lastly, let's look at a situation where you're offering advice to someone. Imagine a friend asks you, "How can I improve my English?" Instead of just saying, "You should practice a lot," you could say, "One of the best ways to improve your English is by speaking it as much as possible. I recommend finding a language, exchange partner, or joining a conversation group. It's also really helpful to watch movies or TV shows in English with subtitles. You'll get used to the natural flow of the language and pick up new vocabulary. Another tip is to keep a journal in English to practice writing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Just keep practicing and you'll improve over time. This response offers practical advice and gives your friends several strategies to work on. It's a great way to share your knowledge and help someone else grow in their language learning journey. By using these examples in different situations, you'll feel more confident in your ability to speak English naturally and fluently. Remember, the key to improving your fluency is practice. The more you practice speaking in detail, the easier it will become to express yourself in any conversation. Keep challenging yourself to expand your answers, and soon you'll notice a huge improvement in your English communication skills. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed practicing your English and feel more confident in expressing yourself in different situations. Remember, improving your fluency takes time, but with consistent practice, you'll continue to make progress. Whether you're chatting about your hobbies, giving feedback, or talking about your goals, always aim to give detailed and thoughtful responses to keep conversations engaging and natural. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share this episode with anyone else who's working on their English skills. The more we practice, the better we get. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to helping you improve your English even more in the next episode. Stay motivated and keep practicing. Your fluency will only improve with time.